Hey everybody, I wanted to make a quick video and show a walkthrough of Demio. I've been getting a lot of requests in our Thinkific Facebook group to people who are selling an online course, want to know how Demio works, if that's the right platform for your webinars. So I wanted to make this video and tell you what I think about Demio. Now this is the home screen when you log in. This will be your kind of like a dashboard that you see. And the first thing we're going to do right now is create a new webinar because I want to show you how easy it is to create it. I am on a Demio plan which allows 100 users to be logged on. So it's about $47 a month, I believe. And I can just always go to settings and go to billing here and take a look. Yep, I'm on the $47 a month plan. It has 100 attendees and then it goes up to 500 and then 1,000. And you can choose either to pay annually or monthly. So let's go back to our dashboard here. Now here, if you want to add a new event, or essentially if you want to create a new webinar, you can just click the add new event button, and at this point you'll have to give your webinar a title. So we're going to call this Demio walkthrough webinar. Now there are a few things you need to put in here. First, if you want to add a tag, and this will come in handy if you are connecting, which most users will, if you're connecting your webinar back to your email service provider like Aweber, MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, etc. So that's where the tags come in, and then the description of the webinar, and then also the date when the webinar is going to happen. So let's call this is a demo. Now let's pick a date. Let's do this for right now at 9:30 p.m. and then you can pick your time zone. I am just going to pick Eastern time zone, and I believe when you do send out the invites, they go in your attendees local time zones, and then you just hit continue. You would see this button here, copy settings. What this does is, if you have had a lot of webinars in the past and they all have the same kind of theme, you can copy their settings. So if I click this button, it's going to ask me which webinar do you want to copy these settings from. So I have a lot of test webinars. I ran a lot of test webinars before our first live webinar, which I highly recommend everyone should do, because there were a few glitches that we were able to catch before we went on the live webinar. So always a good thing to be testing. So I can pick one of those webinars and copy its settings. I'm not going to do that right now, but if you do want to do it, you can. And then in this case, I'm just going to hit continue. So that's it. Your webinar has been created. As you see up here, webinar has been created, and then it brings you into kind of like this. It looks fairly simple, but there's a lot of complex logic going on in the backend, and I'm going to show you step by step all those features of what you can do on the back end of your webinar. So we discussed the tag. Here's the description. The first thing Demio is asking you is, do you want your chat to be private or public? This is if you are primarily going to be connecting with your attendees using chat. Obviously no one else is allowed to talk unless they are a coordinator. So I like to keep my chat private because I don't want other people to see what others are typing. In case there's someone who's being obnoxious in the chat room, I just like to keep it at private. That way they can have a one-on-one conversation with me, but when I reply to them, I can either reply to one particular person or I can reply to the entire chat room. It's totally up to your preference. And then, do you want to redirect your webinar attendees to a page after your webinar? So I would highly recommend this option to be active, and what this does is simply redirects them to your offer page, your home page, or your landing page, wherever it is that you want them to go. So yeah, I would highly recommend using this feature. I did not use it for my first webinar, but I will be using it for the upcoming one on April 27th. So if you just simply put in a URL here, save URL. So once the webinar is over, your attendees will be automatically redirected to that landing page, your offer page, whatever it is that you're selling. And then it shows the date and time here again. You can edit it if you want. We are just going to leave it as is, and we save it. At this point, you will be brought out of that advanced setting that we were in, and this is your registration link. So anyone who has this link, let me just copy this, and then if I go in to a new tab, paste it, it'll bring you to the registration link right here. It shows you the name of the webinar right here, the date and time of the webinar, and then it'll ask you to put in your name and your email, and then you can click the join right now button. The first thing I'm going to do is change the time of the webinar. So how do we do that? Let's go to edit. Let me go back to my events just so you see. So now it shows that I have two webinars that are ready. One is on 27th and one that's happening right now, and this is the one that we want to edit. So let's click on the edit button, and here I can change the date and time of the webinar. I'll hit this little pencil. Let's change this to 10 p.m. Okay, that has been updated. So there's a few more things we're going to go into. If you click this advanced button here, you'll see a bunch of different options. Let's go through them one at a time and see what they are. First one is emails. This is Demio has a set of four, I believe there's four, let's take a look, 4 emails that they have pre-written, and you cannot change them. You can add your own custom text in between those emails, and you can turn them off if you would like, but you cannot change much in them. For example, this is the first email that goes out, instant confirmation. Someone registered for your webinar, they will get an instant email from Demio, and this is what it would say. It'll show them the join link. You can enter your custom text here. I believe this is an HTML box, so if you want to make your text look pretty, I'm not sure, I believe it is. We can test that later. And then it shows how to join the webinar. If you have an iOS device, they did recently release iOS for iPhone and iPad. They did release an app, so that was like last week, and I'm excited about that. I did not have that for the first webinar, so I am really happy that they did do that. And then it shows the coordinator's email, whoever your coordinator is for that webinar, and then this is the option that the attendee will see. So this is the first email that goes out. Then there's another one that goes out 24 hours before the webinar. It's pretty much the same details, and then one that goes out 1 hour before the webinar, and the final one that goes out 15 minutes before the webinar. So these are the 4 emails that go out. There's no way today to customize these other than that little box in the center where you can add your own custom text. And then once you do add whatever you want to type in here, you can just hit save, and it brings you right back to where you were, and you'll see your text has been saved here. You can switch them on and off if you'd like, and everything is updated. It's cloud based, so everything is updated instantly. There's no need to always hit the save button. And then if you want to completely disable these emails, you just hit the disable button, and all emails will be disabled. And this might work out for you if you have your autoresponder and you want to manage all the emails from your autoresponder and not use Demio for the communication piece. You can simply turn it off. I like to leave this on. So that's what emails is. The next one is roles. Roles is where you assign the coordinator for that event, and that's the only role I see in here. I don't see any other roles, so you just put in the name and email of the person that would be running the webinar. In my case, my wife and I work together on our online training program. She is the one who presents the webinar, so she's the coordinator, and I handle the backstage stuff. So I usually send her an invite, and she log in from her computer and start presenting her screen. So that's the roles part. The next one is the registration part. So in this registration part, you'll see there's an editor. There is the registration form where you can add an integration. You'll get an embed code if you would like to embed this form on your site. Let's say you don't want to use Demio's drag and drop landing page builder. You can embed this registration form on your WordPress site or ClickFunnels or any other website you're using. You can just simply get the embed code, put it on your website as a HTML box, and it works perfectly. And then you can also add additional fields if you want more than just the name and email. You can do that. And then the thank you page, Demio automatically redirects users after registration to their thank you page, but you can customize that and put your own thank you page URL, and I'll show you later what that looks like also. So let's start with the editor. If I click on launch editor, this is what it looks like. There's no way to get rid of the logo right now, and that's why I do not use their landing page builder, because I don't want to promote Demio. No offense, I do love them, but I want to keep the user on my landing page, make sure they don't have any reason to click out and go anywhere else. Here's the title. You can change that title here. You can add a sub headline. These blocks are not movable, so you cannot drag and drop as most of us can with lead pages, Thrive themes, ClickFunnels. It's an easy drag and drop interface. Demio does not have that, and rightfully so. They are not a landing page builder company. They are a webinar registration platform and a platform that allows you to run webinars, so I don't expect them to be good at this part of webinars. So I'm not really complaining about it. It's just I'm used to using Thrive themes, so this is not a big deal for me. But again, this is where your sub headline goes. You can change the text color if you like. I guess that's for this. I'm just clicking around. Alright, so you can put in your color code. You can change the title if you like. This color is ugly. Let me just change that. Okay, there we go. And then you can put your sub headline here, and then there's a few different blocks you can put in here. So this timer will continue to go. You can't do anything about it. And then you can put in an image block here, and then once you click out of it, you will see the other blocks. You can put a video block here if you want, and you can put in a Vimeo, Vistia, or YouTube link, which is pretty much where everyone hosts their videos these days. You can also put in another image, and then you can put in some bullet texts. Let's see, I put that in. And again, guys, there's no formatting options. You cannot have all your text formatted. What you see is what you get. So it's a very WYSIWYG, and once this is ready, you just hit save. Oh, I guess I haven't chosen an image file. Let me get rid of these blocks. So you just hit save, and now you can preview this, see what it looks like. Pretty ugly, but you get the idea of how this works. And you will also see the countdown timer, and this is what an attendee would see if they were to go and register on the link that Demio gives you. If you're strictly running webinars, there are a lot of users that are not using any landing pages. If you are strictly running webinars, this would be the way to go for it. And maybe you are hosting your course on Thinkific or Teachable or Udemy, and you're running a webinar to give away some free content, and you're going to drive your users to one of those platforms. In that case, you don't really need a separate landing page just for your webinar registration, so this is something that would suffice. So let's go back to Demio. that's pretty much it for the editor. There's not much to it. It's like I said, very WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get, and we're going to now X out of the editor. So the next thing is your integration. This is how you would integrate Demio with your, I don't know if I'm calling it right, Demio, but anyways, this is how you would integrate Demio with your ESP, your email service provider. I currently use ActiveCampaign, so that's where I would integrate it with. One thing to note here is if you have an integration like MailChimp, you'll actually be able to select your list that you want these webinar registrants to be added to. In case of ActiveCampaign, it's a very tag based system, so instead of a list I have to actually select a tag that I want, and you can see those tags can start getting out of control here. But I would select a tag, and then within ActiveCampaign I'll have an automation starting off with a tag. For example, if this tag fires, then add this contact to this list. I hope that makes sense. If you're an ActiveCampaign user, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, I would suggest you start using ActiveCampaign. They are pretty awesome as well. So you would select your integration here. You can add an integration. I've already added this. If you want to add more integrations, you can do it from your settings tab. So if I just click on settings, you can go to integrations, and then you can add so right now I have a Zapier integration and an ActiveCampaign integration running. These are some of the integrations that they currently have. If you don't see your email service provider here, you can always use a Zap. You can create a Zap for that account. And if you don't know what Zapier is, you can go check them out on YouTube. I'm sure there's millions of videos on what Zapier is. So some of the integrations they have is obviously ActiveCampaign, Infusionsoft, and I believe this is Aweber, Entreport, OfficePort, Office Pilot, sorry, MailChimp, GetResponse, which one is this? ConvertKit, Drip, and Market Hero. They are constantly adding new integrations, so I would say if you don't see your email service provider here, just shoot them a quick email or a quick message here, and they are pretty fast at replying back. On my intercom I have so many chats with them, and they always reply back pretty quickly. Alright, so we are back at our page for registration. So again, I already have an integration here. Let's just say I'm going to use the tag webinar registrant, which means that someone registers for my webinar, a tag will be fired and sent to ActiveCampaign to mark that contact as a webinar registrant. And then so these are the two fields that they give standard and are required. You cannot change that, but I would like to add a new field called job title, and we'll make that an optional field, and let's add it. Now based on your integration, it'll automatically asks you where would you like to connect this to in ActiveCampaign. So back in ActiveCampaign I have a job title field, so I would like to connect this new text field to the field in my ActiveCampaign email service provider as job title, and then you just hit save again, and that's it. Now within ActiveCampaign I can use this special one-click email link, and how this works is if it is sent from ActiveCampaign to one of my contacts, it'll fill in these dynamic values, first name, last name, email, and when they click on this link, they will not be taken to the registration page. The registration page will be skipped, and they'll be taken directly to the success page, showing them a success message, that's a tongue twister, saying you have been registered for the webinar. And that makes sense, right guys? These contacts are already on your list. Why would I send them an email and ask them to register for a webinar and provide me the same details again that I already have from them? So I love this feature. A lot of email service providers allow you to do this. If you're using Thrive Themes, they have something similar called Sign Up Segue. You can check that out, and I will link to those below under the video. You can check out the Sign Up Segue through Thrive Themes. And then here's that optional thank you page if you want the users to be redirected to a different page instead of Demio's organic thank you page. You can do that as well. Alright, so that was it for the registration part. Now let's go into the best part of Demio, which is the automation rules. And this is where all the magic happens. Now here, what I can do is I can simply copy rules from one of my previous webinars, but let's build them from scratch just so you can see the power of using Demio. If you just click on add new rule, this new box opens up, and this is a if this then that kind of IFTTT situation where there are different triggers and each trigger has a connected action to it. So let's say the first one, registers. You want to say if someone registers for my webinar, add them to a list in ActiveCampaign, or remove them from a list, or add a tag, remove a tag, add to automation, save join link, and then send them a replay link. So these are all the triggers that you can use, and you can use multiple triggers. So for example, I can say if someone registers for a webinar, add a tag, and let's select this tag, webinar registrant, and then also add them to an automation, and then also send them the replay link as soon as it's ready. And then you can add your special text here, and you can see at the bottom here it says HTML is not allowed, special text here, and then let's preview what this email looks like. Replay now available, and this is the email that will go out to all webinar attendees after they have finished the webinar. And you can control who this goes out to. So let's say anyone who registers gets the link immediately. Maybe I don't want to do this part, so let's cancel this. I want to say anyone who registers gets added to my ActiveCampaign, and they also get added to an automation where they will get a few emails before the webinar. So let's save this rule, and now let's add a new rule that anyone who stays till the end, right? Anyone who completes the webinar, they don't need the link right away because they've already seen the webinar. So let's send them a link 24 hours after it's ready. That means they've had some time to sleep over it if they did not purchase your offer right away. 24 hours later is a good reminder, hey, here's the replay of the webinar you recently watched, and maybe that will jog their memory to go and take that action that you want them to take. Maybe buy your course, your online product, whatever it is that you're selling. So again, you can add any text here that you would like, and then I'm not going to add anything else, just save the rule, and that's it. So I have two rules. Once someone registers, segment them an ActiveCampaign by adding this tag and then adding them to an automation, and then if they complete the webinar, then wait till 24 hours before sending them that replay link. And then if you want to disable this rule, you can just simply hit disable, or you can delete it or edit it to make further changes to that rule. So this is pretty powerful, right guys? And yeah, I just love this feature of having all these automation rules. Next one is materials, and this is where you can add your presentation material, so you can actually do the presentation from within Demio. And you simply click the add presentation material button, select if it's going to be a video or a presentation. You can only do PDFs, I believe. You cannot do a keynote from here, so you can upload a PDF. Let's say it's going to be webinar slides, and then you can drag and drop the file, or you can simply let's go open this file. Actually, let me find the webinar slide. Here we go. Let's put this one here. This is the webinar slide deck, and then it does its thing. We're going to let it upload, and I'll be back in a few. Alright, so now the upload is complete. We can just click the add presentation material button, and you can add multiple things in here if you'd like. So now that this is done, it's going to be it's still rendering all the presentations. You can leave this page and we can come back to it later. So we're good for now because we don't need this till the actual webinar itself. Okay, so while that is rendering, let's move on to the last part, which is another crucial part of any good website, is the tracking functionality. So this is where you would add all your pixels, your Google Analytics codes, mix panel, anything you're using to track your visitors. And if you're running Facebook ads and you're running them for conversion, this would count as a conversion if they land on the success page, so which is the thank you page right here. You have a few different places you can put in your code here. One is the registration page, then the thank you page, and then the webinar room itself. So this is how you would segment or journey your visitors. And if you were, let's say, creating a funnel in Google Analytics to visualize the flow, this is where you would put those tracking codes in. Someone who shows up on your registration page first, then also shows up on your thank you page, that would be counted as a goal conversion. And then if they ended up showing up to the webinar, then you can track their behavior there. And we are doing that from triggers also, so this is just another added step to make sure you don't lose anyone from your funnel. And again, you can add multiple codes here, so you can have your Facebook code first, and then you can add your I might even have some copied here. Nope, I don't. And you can keep adding as many pieces of code here as you'd like. So that's the final feature, which is the tracking feature. So let's go back in here and actually start this webinar and see what that looks like. I'm going to grab this registration code, open it in incognito, sign up for the webinar. Alright, here's my name, add my email, add a job title, register for the webinar. So because we did not have a redirect for the thank you page, this is what your webinar attendees would see as soon as they have signed up for the webinar. They are taken to the Demio thank you page. So everything, all the branding here is related to Demio. This is not a clickable link, which is good, but you do have the privacy policy, spam policy, terms of service. This is all specific to Demio. If you want to display your own footer policies, then you need to redirect them to your own page. And then here the webinar attendee can add it to the calendar, and this is their unique join link when they are ready to go. So if let's say I was to go to the webinar right now, I do have it scheduled to start at 10 p.m. So let's see what happens. Because the webinar is not ready right now, it's simply going to show them this screen. The webinar is starting soon. Well, let's go back to our page here, right here, and let's go and actually start the webinar, see what happens. As you can see, it shows that I have one registrant. If I click here, it'll show me who that person is. Here's my name and email, and then I can click onto it to see more details, which webinar they're registered for, and it also shows history if they have attended any of your previous webinars. I'm not sure why this webinar history is here, because there is no reporting functionality that I have seen. If I can go into settings, there's nothing here where I can run reports, so I don't know what that functionality does. I'm not going to go into each and every contact and see how many webinars they have attended. It would be cool to get a report that I can just export into Excel and then filter it out from people who have registered multiple webinars. Maybe they would need a different email sequence journey than someone who has never been to any one of my webinars, so that would be cool, but I don't see that functionality right now. So let's go back to my events again, And now when you are ready to start a webinar, all you need to do is simply click the start button, and that brings you to what Demio calls a backstage. There is a checklist here. You're always prompted with this checklist, and you don't need to really check all of these buttons. You can simply leave them unchecked. Make sure everything is good. They do let you run a speed test right here within Demio. You don't have to leave the system. And if you just do test your speed, it'll show you what your speed is. Usually they suggest anything above 2 MB is good. So I have a decent speed right now, and plenty enough to run the webinar. You'll see the green check marks. That means you have a great internet connection. So once you're ready, you've done your checklist, simply click I'm ready, log me into Demio. Let's go back and switch over to our attendee and see what they see. So they are still not seeing anything. It's just saying webinar is starting soon. They will be able to hear you if you switch on your mic. So this is what the backstage looks like. You can start sharing your screen right away. Here's the webinar slides that we had uploaded, so you can share that, or you can share the entire screen or a specific window. One thing to note here, if you do share a specific window, if that window is Keynote, you will not be able to go full screen and within Keynote. I believe this is a glitch that Demio is working on to fix. We don't know when that fix is happening, so for now your only two options is, one, to share your entire screen and go full screen on that Keynote, or to present webinar slides from within Demio. That way the attendee will be able to see it full screen, but you will still be able to control your backstage. I prefer going full screen on my Keynote on one computer and also having a second computer for the backstage stuff. But if you are only working with one computer and like to use Keynote, you might be SOL right now. More to come on that. You can check with Demio support and see how far along they are with that feature request. So what are the things you see in here? You can see all the coordinators. If there's multiple coordinators, you will see the second person listed here, and then you can either turn their mic on or off and turn their webcam on or off. I think if I turn the mic on right now, we might hear some frequency. Let's take a look. So here's my mic, it's on, and then my attendee can probably now hear everything I'm saying, but this, since it's just me, obviously we can't test that part. We can switch off the mic for now. Same thing with webcam, you switch it on, and attendees, when you go live, the attendee will be able to see you. And again, we're going to switch that off for now. And then here there are a few settings. Again, it's the webcam, auto select which webcam you want to use, microphone, and output. It's my snowball as the mic, output is auto, that's fine. And then here's your chat window. This is where you'd be able to chat. You can chat with the public here, and then also you can chat within coordinators. If there's multiple coordinators, you guys are in different parts of the country, not in the same room, different states, whatever the case may be, you can chat with each other right here. And then you, in the general chat, is where you would chat back with your attendees. Let's close this for now, and then you can go full screen. So even though we hit the start webinar button earlier, the webinar hasn't really started till we actually hit the start webinar button again. I'm not going to do that yet. I want to show you a few more things. Another thing to see here is you can go in and see who is attending right now. It shows you all your attendees. Here the option you have is to boot them out. If someone is being obnoxious at your webinar, you can simply kick them out of here. Handouts, let's say you have promised your attendees, webinar starts, you do your intro, and what's the first thing we all say? If you guys stick till the end, there is a carrot at the end of this webinar. So you have dangled that carrot, which would be a cheat sheet, checklist, whatever it may be. You can put that in here. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's say I've promised them this file right here. So we're gonna upload it, and again you can upload multiple files. And then finally, resources is pretty cool. I actually didn't know that this feature existed till recently when I was doing a demo for a colleague of mine, and he was kind enough to let me know that I can use this feature. So what is resources? The name is a little misleading. Resources is, I thought, at least for me, resources means a PDF or something like that, but to Demio, resources is actually a call to action button. Pretty cool. So you just click on resources, add a new resource, and this would be your CTA call to action button, where let's say you went into the sale, you have finished the teaching part of your webinar, you're into the sale portion of it, and now you want your attendees to take action. So let's say that resource name is Google, button name is buy now 20% discount, and the link goes out to google.com. I guess I can just do www.com, and then you can upload a image for that resource. And again, another cool feature that I like. So I haven't personally tested this yet live. This would be the first time I'm testing it with you guys, so let's see how it works. And then you simply click the add new resource button if you want to share this right now, but the webinar hasn't started, so I'm not really going to share it now. I'm going to share it later. One thing that it doesn't have is you cannot preset. I know some webinar softwares out there let you preset at what time into your slideshow this should start showing. So Demio doesn't offer that. The only thing you can do is share it right now before the webinar starts, or share it during the webinar. Just click the share now button and forget about it. Or if you have a coordinator who is managing the tech side of it while you are concentrating on presenting the webinar, then that person can start sharing this when you go into your sales pitch. For one person, it could get a little tricky trying to run a webinar and also share resources, handouts, so chat and reply to chat. So it could be a little difficult, challenging with one person, especially if you're not tech savvy and haven't used all these tools before. So I would say practice before you go live. So now we have our resource ready, we have our handout ready, we have an attendee ready, and I'm ready. So I would say we are ready to start the webinar. Let's go ahead and start that. Okay, let's hit the start. Oh, I probably should turn on my mic. Let's hit the start webinar button. So you'll get the 3, 2, 1 that we are now live. Okay, so here's that frequency. So we're getting a lot of replay, or I don't know the technical term for this, but because my mic is on and I'm also talking on my mic, you would hear that. So I'm going to switch that off for now. Now, if we go back to the attendee view, this is what the attendee sees. Let me pull this on the side here. Alright, so here's the attendee view. Just look for this little guy with the hat and the glasses. That's my incognito, so you'll know this is the attendee view. And this is my coordinator view. As you can see, it shows that the webinar is live, and if your mic was on, it'll show it here. And pretty much the webinar is on. So what do we do now? We can start the slides. So if you just click on the webinar slides option, it's asking you, are you sure you want to start these slides, which means the attendees will start seeing this right away. What they don't see is they won't see that slide 1 of 131, slide 2 of 131, 3 of 131. So they won't see that. If I go back into my so it's hard to show you because I have only one screen here, but your attendees won't see that. They will just see whatever is showing on your slide. These came from the keynote presentation, and I did include the presenter slides, but if you choose not to include the presenter slides, then whatever is showing on the screen is what your attendees will see. So that's their view. If you were to share your full screen instead of the slideshow, let's say you share your full screen, it shows now you're sharing your screen, but your option to go in the backstage disappears. So I had that option here to go in backstage. Again, if you have only one computer, you start sharing your full screen, the way to go to backstage is to click this button right here, go to backstage. But keep in mind, whatever you're doing now, your attendees can see that too, as you can see right here. So I can now, let's stop sharing my screen and go back to that slide share. So let's share the slide. This way I control what my attendees see. If you have two computers, you're better off sharing your whole screen on one and having that keynote open, and on the other screen you can manage the backstage. That's just how I prefer it. If you're happy doing it this way, then more power to you. Now, one thing to note here, so let's share a resource with them, right? Let's go to our backstage, and this is where you would share your resources and your handouts. So let's share this handout. I want to share this with the attendee right now. You heard that little ding. That means there was a message on the attendee side. And let me make this a little bigger. So I have this little message here. I click on it. It says that a handout has been shared with me, and I can just download this and see what it is. Woohoo! I have the power of sight. So that's how they will be notified, is through that little chat window. It won't be above or below the webinar slide itself. It'll be in that chat window. And let's go ahead and share a resource with them. See what that looks like. Okay, there was that familiar ding sound, and if we go and click here, here's the resource. There's the name of the resource, who it's being shared by. So even though I was not the or whoever the coordinator is, it will show their name. And then here's the call to action button. So if I click on this button, it opens in a new window, takes me to the URL, and boom, I love it. Let's close this chat, go back to our webinar, and then we can close backstage. So once your webinar is over, let's say we went through all of our slides, it's all done. Now we can stop the webinar, and the way to stop the webinar is you simply go to backstage and click the red button where it says stop webinar. Once that's done, your attendees, again, because we had the redirect, to redirect them to a different URL as soon as the webinar is over, they are taken to that URL that you had put in when we did our settings. And then if we come back to my events, now that event is not showing in your upcoming event anymore. It's become a past event. So what you can do in that event is, if we go back to that event, here's that event. You can see, you can see how many people attended, how long did the webinar run for, what was the time of the webinar and the date, and you can run reports on it. Now the webinar is being rendered right now, which means in technical terms it's being on Demio's server. They're saving their webinar, and that's why you don't have the option to launch replay right now. But what that looks like is, once you have a webinar that is ready to launch the replay, you see here I have 3 live like webinars or replays. I can click this launch replay button, and what this does is it creates an evergreen webinar, and you can have this on your thank you page. On if someone shows up to your website, you can have them sign up for the webinar that's starting in 15 minutes, and you will get a link. Here's that registration URL, and users will be able to just simply go on this link, register, and start the webinar right away. And it says this webinar is starting right now. Again, you don't have to use Demio's landing pages, and I don't even think this page is customizable. You can just use your own page, embed this form on your page, and have this webinar running. So this is how the live like, or what they like to call live like replay, I like to call it evergreen webinar looks like. It shows you what you can do. If you want to enable automatic chat response to attendees, you can activate it. And this is what you can't have a automation based messaging right now. You can simply have a one line message that you can tell your attendees if they do ask you a question in the chat box, and then you can come back to your replays and see what kind of questions were asked during the webinar. And that's just I guess I need to okay. And then same thing here, if you want to redirect them to a different URL, you can do that, save it, and that's it. Your replay is now ready. You can simply copy this link, and this also has a few settings here you can do. You can go to the registration option here, copy the embed code, and put it on your website, and then you can edit. I guess you can edit the landing page if you need to. So we're not going to do that. And let's go back. Now if I go back to my past events, I want to show you how the reporting looks like. And let's actually pick one that we had done, which was a live webinar. Wasn't that great a show up rate, but let's take a look at the reports and see what happened. So here you can see that the webinar was 1 hour 1 minute long. At the peak of it, there were 9 attendees at about the 20-minute mark, and that's the reporting is awesome with Demio. You don't need to do any thinking. It tells you what was your show up rate. 28% showed up. Awesome. So I don't need to sit and do math here. And how many people actually completed the webinar was 5. Everyone else dropped off at some point or the other. And these peaks is you'll see the 8 and the 3, or 8 and 1, and the legend is right here. 8 attendees, 1 interaction. 8 attendees, 3 interactions. So interactions will obviously be more towards the beginning and the end, and during the middle when you are delivering your content, there most likely won't be any interactions because they're just listening, hopefully. So that's the general reporting. And then if you click on to attendees, it shows you who were the attendees that showed up on your webinar. And then also in the chat, you'll be able to see what they chatted while they were in the webinar and what your replies were. So that's kind of like where the general attendees, and so this is the reporting feature, and this part you can export out to an Excel or a CSV file, I believe. Yep, it goes into a CSV file. So another thing I wanted to show you before I leave you guys here is the recordings feature. So if you just click on recordings, every screen recording is stored within Demio, and you can go to any one of these recordings that is stored, and here's the replay link. So you can, if you want to send the replay link out, you can pick it from here, put it in your autoresponder, and then you can also click out and get this link right here. You can drive people to, maybe this could be your thank you page is the replay link. Let's say someone downloads a tripwire or a lead magnet, they can go to the replay link. You can edit, and you can edit the title, you can edit the subtitle, and then also there's a button text if you want to put a button here and what that link goes out to. So that button text would be the call to action button. And then you can download that replay if you'd like, and then you can also delete your recording. I don't think Demio has a limit to how many recordings you can store, or if they do, I haven't hit it yet. So I'm going to leave all my recordings here. So that's the recordings feature. Contacts is everyone who registers for your webinar. They become a contact and you can see them here. Each contact gets this weird looking kaleidoscopic ish icon, and there's no way you can change it, but that's just, it's a random generated icon that gets assigned to each contact. You can export all your contacts. Hopefully you don't need to, because you have your autoresponder or your email service provider already set within Demio, so everything is being automatically transferred back to your ESP. And the last thing we can look at is settings. So in settings, you have your profile, you have your billing information right here, and we had gone over this in the beginning. It's very easy to cancel your account too if you want to. And then any of your API keys will be here. Here's your integrations with the different platforms, users, how many so if you add a new user, it's going to cost you. I suggest you just keep one user and keep adding coordinators. And then finally your email settings, who should be the sender and the sender's email, and any custom signatures. So guys, that's it for the Demio demo. I hope you got a lot out of this. If you are considering using Demio, I will tell you a trick to get 1 month free. And that trick is to actually sign up for a demo call with Demio, and just for signing up for that demo call, they will give you 1 month free. You do have to sign up and start paying, so you have to pay for the first month, and the second month they won't charge you for being a customer. So there you have it. I do have a special link down at the bottom. That's my own personal link. If you like this demo, you can click on it. That will get you to demio.com. It's at no charge to you. I do get a commission if you do buy from my personal link. If not, just head on over to demio.com and make the purchase there. Either ways, you will be happy with the product. And if you have any questions, just write them down in the comment below and I'll be sure to answer your questions. Thank you.